All right, looks like we're recording. So, hi, I'm Eric Goodman. I'm the acting chair of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And Cynthia?
And I'm Cynthia Palmer, and I'm chair of the Bicycle Advisory Committee. And we can go down the list, maybe, starting with Chris Slatt. Chris, are you here? All right, moving right along, we have Dana.
Yeah, Dana Bress, Aurora.
And David Ansell.
David Ansell, Bicycle Advisory Committee.
And David Early.
David Early, new member of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee from the Park and Recs Commission.
Welcome. And David Patton.
David Patton, Transportation Planner in DOT for the county.
And Elliot F.B.
Hey there, Elliot Forster Benson on the Bike Committee.
And Elwin.
Hey everybody, this is Elwin Gonzalez, Transportation Planner with DES.
And Mike Hanna.
He's in the list.
All right. Hi, Mike. And Wei Wang.
Okay. Good evening, Hui Wang, Deputy Director, Chief Deputy for DES. I just got this 2 days ago, so it's still a mouthful.
Congratulations.
I'm still in transportation.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yay. And Lauren.
Hi, Lauren Hassel, Walk Arlington and Bike Arlington.
And Mary.
I'm Mary Delau, a county contractor with Bike and Walk Arlington.
And Noreen.
Hi, I'm Noreen Hannigan. I'm on the Bicycle Advisory Committee, and I'm also on the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Thank you. And Pam.
Hi, Pam Van Hine. I'm the PAC Recording Secretary. Nice to see everybody.
And Randy.
Randy Swart, former BAC member and member of the original BAC committee formed by Hank Hume way back when.
Amazing. Thank you. And Aaron.
Much more recent member of the Bicycle Advisory Committee and Lion Park guy.
Steve O.
Hi, Steve Offit. I'm a member of the Bicycle Advisory Committee.
And Valerie.
Hello, everyone. Valerie Mosley. I am with Transportation Planning, Capital Projects Management. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. Who did we miss? Ambar.
Hey, I'm Amber. I'm part of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Excellent. And Chris Slatt, we'll try you again. Okay, and Mike Hanna.
Hey there, Chris Slatt, back at the Bicycle Advisory Committee.
Good.
On my phone, so everything is twice as slow as it normally is.
Yeah. And Mike Hanna, are you there now? All right.
Well, hopefully he'll be on when he
In
has
a few minutes. Yeah.
Hear me now. Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yes.
Oh, yes.
Still can't hear me.
Yeah.
We hear you.
We do.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we do very clearly.
Okay. Got multiple devices and none of them are working right, but okay, that'll work.
Welcome.
All right.
Welcome everybody. We have quite a crowd today. Very pleased to welcome our guest. And I won't repeat your new title, but it sounded very impressive. So why don't we dive right in? Does that sound good?
Yes. Valerie will help me get the slides up. I have only couple of slides, try to capture some of the questions and the comments you sent in advance. Again, appreciate you all send that in to help guide this conversation. So Cynthia, I read your email, I read the letter very carefully, trying to get a sense. I'm trying to assemble that in my head of, what are you all trying to tell me? And I think I got the message. And just a way of processing those, I put them in 3 general categories, because that's just how I process things. And I hope I can address them in those categories. And of course, we can have follow-up question and conversation. Next slide, please. The first thing I heard loud and clear is the question of how do PAC and BAC continue to support staff on the project level development. I recall the old days when, we used to have a different format of getting your comment and getting your input. And I sort of lived through, along with you, the evolving engagement and the communication requirement by the county. I will say, actually, I kind of feel it, in a sense, worked for the county public as a total, because we have heard of comments about, well, you guys, check the box of you engaged just because you talked to a committee or a couple committees, but you didn't actually come to the neighborhood. You didn't actually listen to us. And so that's where the county and the board actually passed that 6-step community engagement and communication guideline for us to make sure we are going through the proper process for every project. It does come with a cost. The cost is, while we are doing all that engagement and trying to capture the larger community, we do not have the same amount of attention and, specific conversation with the committees and commissions. What we really asked you for help, and you have very generously offered, is to find a different way to funnel your information to us, participate in the public engagement process, and provide consolidated committee feedback. I remember receiving letters from PAC and BAC either separately or jointly. I remember getting the letters from the Transportation Commission. So you have been doing a great job of giving us the information. I think most of you, if not all, signed up for the newsletter. So you probably sometimes feel like spammed because we have so many newsletters coming out talking about projects, and usually in there will be announcement for coming up engagement opportunities, for construction announcements. One thing I have heard is, can't you guys give us a little bit more advance notice? 2 weeks may not be enough for us to get the schedule and everything. We are like walking a delicate balance. It's part of the nature of doing projects, project execution and construction, is there are things that's not so predictable until we're closer to the time. We don't want to generate false expectation.
Whoa.
Okay, now it's gone. There was an echo. That's that. And also at the same time, we do realize we want to give advance notice. So we always try to get more advance notice. Sometimes we cut close to 2 weeks or so. So it does put more burden on you all to manage all that discrete announcements. And we have put a lot of effort of tidy up and update and keep the information valid and fresh on our project web pages. So that's the public page, and also there are private development web page that we also have to track activities, the either preliminary, expired, approved site plans. And I know many of you are wearing multiple hats. You also show up at the site development engagement activities. And there's another item that I have really appreciated both teams of giving us feedback and sending issues about MOT, basically maintaining pedestrian and bicycle path around construction zones for both county projects and private projects. You've been sending those information in and everything. So I think we are maintaining a project level engagement, and you are really helping us. It is in a different format, I have to admit that, and does put additional burden on you all. And on that, I am very thankful, and my team is very grateful for that. Moving to the next category, Valerie, next slide. Thank you. This one is where I think you and your team really help to shape up the future of Arlington. By that, I don't just mean the Arlington transportation future activity, recent. I mean every planning level engagement and opportunities. That, the planning items sometimes seems to be harder to grasp. Oh, I have to admit, at least for me, sometimes I'm like, okay, but we're doing that, but it may not be this year. It may be the long term. How do people take that? How do they sort of absorb the information? I want to use a very wonderful example of the meeting last night. Some of you were there last night. That's the Vision Zero Action Plan update. And we have gone through Vision Zero for a little more than 5 years. And there had been a lot of activity. And look back 5 years ago, I think Arlington has changed a lot. Every day it almost feels stale, but if you zoom out, we see a lot of change. And we also heard people very actively tell us what they think need to be done more. How do we get there with our 2030 goal of zero? And I'm like, this is really great work put together to influence the future. It may not just be the next 5 years. We're probably going to keep at it for much, much longer of those actions. And then there's the Arlington Transportation Future, the advisory group, and also the public engagement. Actually, advertisement, there's one coming up in October 27th. That's the open house. And then there will be a 2-month-long engagement period for comments to come in. Outside of transportation, on the county level, there's also the Arlington Comprehensive Plan update, the Public Spaces Master Plan update, and the Climate Action Plan. These are huge long-term plans that will impact our county, impact our landscape, our infrastructure, and the way we travel, the way we live in the county. So I would really encourage, and I would appreciate your opinion and your comments on all those items. So that's on the sort of larger planning level. Now I'm going to move to the next slide, which is something I'm asking your extra further support on. many times there are things that you all tell us, hey, you should do this, do that. And we're like, yeah, we agree we should do this, we should do that. But then we found that there is either outdated law or code, state code that's yet to move up and keep up with the current way of living and travel. And some of those codes limit our ability to do certain things. One example you're very familiar with, we can use speed camera to enforce the speed in school zone, which is very, very narrowly defined school zone, only within the time period when the flashing beacon is in function. And there's a code also tell you when the flashing beacon should be in action. So it's not like then we can just extend it to 24 hours. So there are so many codes that actually are limiting our ability to further certain actions that we've already seen benefit. We have data, we saw benefit, we just can't get there yet. And for what I know, lawmakers are elected officials. They're elected. They listen to you. And I would really encourage these two groups, and also go beyond your friends, people who agree with your opinion, to actually advocate for the expansion of laws and local authority to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. I think that, and from staff side, every year when we discuss legislative package, we continue to push for those items. We also, one thing I've found is when we do certain things, especially when it comes to safety, it's always a double-edged sword. On one hand, we are slowing traffic down. We're reducing the risk of severe injury and death. On the other hand, we do put drivers, we do put vehicles at a slower pace that they may need to plan 5 additional minutes of going to their destination and things like that, and change behavior. So there is compromise, groups need to make. What I have seen is when we have good things installed or implemented, we need the beneficiary groups to come out and continue show your support, because like we do a lot of pilots in Vision Zero, for example. If we hear positive feedback, if we have community support, then we have good data to support us expanding those programs and expanding the usage of certain tools. Without that, what we heard could be one-sided. It could come from the team that actually got, have to change their behavior. Yes, they're not happy. And then it takes time for people to get used to that. And if all we hear is from one side, that could influence how we justify a program, a project, a tool, and an action. I really would want you all to help support the things you like. Tell us what worked. That sometimes really help. And a lot of you travel, and you travel well. Dana, you're in California. And I know some of you, you travel overseas and you come home, you talk about, hey, I've seen such and such, the good things I've seen. We want to hear from you on those things too. Because if you see things that worked and you say, hey, why don't we try that? I can't tell you, yeah, from that point on, we can say, let's try it tomorrow. But we put them in a repository. We put them in there. So when we are thinking about piloting new tools and stuff, that's where the knowledge and information we draw from. I can't send staff to overseas trips. I would love to, well, but we can't do that. And we would rely on you when you see good things happening. And I want to give you an example. The roundabout project at Military and Nelly Costas. It's a very controversial project. It's right now it's in construction. It's construction is not nice to the neighbors. I remember some of the, I think, not naming names, there are people who live very close to that intersection, used to really don't understand why you guys want to do that. How does a roundabout work and stuff like that. Until I think that family took an overseas trip and come back with a change of heart and say, we've seen that working, it's really good. Yes, we support that. Despite of the amount of, I will say, burden we put on their house and, at their frontage, it's, it makes the day for the team when we have people willing to take on the burden and to make it better for the general good. That's really a good day. And knowing that their travel actually paid for our action, that's extra good. So I think these are like one more item. I have, since I have you all here, when we have the facilities installed, please use them. Please let us know what's good about it, what's not so good. If I'm not using it, why don't I use it? If you make certain change, then we may be more willing to use it. For example, protected bike lanes. Protected bike lanes take a lot of right-of-way real estate to form, either within the current building environment or by expansion, building them into trail and everything. If you think, you know what, most times they worked, but there's some reason for me to choose to stay out of them, we want to hear from you. What's the problem? And what can we do to make it better? Because I do get feedback of, oh, you guys took the travel lane for bike lane, but I don't see many people use it, or I see a cyclist stayed in the travel lane. Cyclists can't stay. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if there's any code against it, but I want to think there must be a reason, and we want to hear from you. What's the reason, right? Share your user experience with us. These are all topics I can think of that you can help us, and my team are really ready to receive your wisdom and your comment. The next slide, I think, is the conclusion slide. I believe in we're working together, and together we can move Arlington forward and make it better. And it would be wonderful if we can have green space, walking, safe walking, comfort biking, and also safe driving environment. That will be the goal we continue to work towards. And I'm going to stop here. I'm sorry for talking to you for 20 minutes. But now I want to hear from you. Any comments, question? Let's open up the discussion. And also we have Valerie here, Elwin, David Pattern. Let's have this conversation with the staff team. All right, Eric.
So I just want to get back to, again, talking a little bit about projects. I think you kind of said, we're in the 6-step process, but what do you think is the best way for us as a group to provide feedback as opposed to doing it sort of disconnected as individuals? I think, I'm not sure I fully got an understanding of how we do that.
Okay. I have to say, I know you and you know, staff has had some conversation, so I also got a download from them. What I have learned is there is some challenge for you all to show up at each one of those project engagement events, right? That's probably not feasible, unrealistic. But I think there could be a way of maybe divvy it up. Like if you have one or two people that happen to be living in the neighborhood, that's easier to get to certain project or have more interest or knowledge about that location, to attend that and bring that information back with you. Usually all this engagement, although it has an event, it also has at least a month long or sometimes longer comment period. So if you have a team or a couple team members get the information and you huddle together and have a conversation about what the opinion is, you can either send it in as a letter or, if less formal, send it in as an email. Again, that's just me thinking that could be a way to divide it up but still be able to get the collective wisdom from your entire team.
Yeah. Wait, I
Thanks.
just wanted to chime in and support that. Collective feedback is really very powerful. So taking that time, and as Wei was saying, the public comment periods are generally spanning weeks so that you can have time, you know, similar to other, I guess, SPRCs, other long range planning, where you have representatives come and take it back to the group, debate it out, and submit your collective comments. That's just very powerful, because now with our 6-step guide, we are reaching such broad, we are trying to reach broadly. We are trying to reach everyone we can who has an interest and wants their voice to be heard. So having the committee's consolidated comment really means a lot. And email to the project manager, to transportation, we really value that and appreciate. So I just wanted to reinforce the power of that collective comment.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Dana.
Yeah, Wei. My gripe, for lack of a better term, with the engagement process is, you know, basically it's at some level trivial. The public says you should do something here, and then you go from there to almost a full-fledged project. And then the next engagement is, how do you think the lighting should be, or what do you think of the public art? As opposed to, we have 7 choices we can do. What do we think about each of those 7 choices? You know, so we end up getting something that's, you know, that's 3/4 done, that doesn't work, you know, that's not going to work. And it's going to put people at risk, and it's going, and it has a potential to fail, because, you know, because it's not going to work. And there's no evidence that there was any engagement in how we went from the myriad choices we started with to what we think is the should be the final design concept, or the final project concept, the design.
Yeah,
I guess maybe what I'm saying is there any way for you guys to show your work?
I hear you, Dana. And Valerie, I'm going to attempt this, but you probably have more specific details. I believe for the 6th step on the project level, we start with identifying the issue, asking people, you know, what you don't like about it, what you want to see. That's where, I think, Dana, that's where there could be 6 options, input, put land. And then we go back with the preliminary. That's actually definitely not, you know, 3/4 done. That's probably the 1st quarter or something. The preliminary, to say, based on what we heard from you all, this is the early concept we're thinking. Definitely not at the streetlight style choice level. And that's where, if there's something fundamentally wrong, missing, and many times people take that opportunity to ask, what about the stuff I talked about, you know, first, and how come it's not in there? That's also an opportunity to explain, not everything can make it in there. So we sort of explained a little bit of the sausage making of what went in, what didn't. I think that's very valuable. And after that, we got more inputs into our hands. We try to use that to fine tune, or sometimes make, a change to the concept and fine tune, and then develop that towards you called it the 3/4. So with that, there is a step capture, I think, what you're thinking, but I have to recognize, Dana, you're an engineer. I get it. You want to see the plan. Sometimes when I talk to the team, I'm like, just forward me the plan, right?
Well, there's no
However,
compelling reason you can't post the plans to your project site. So if somebody wants to see them, they can.
well, I actually beg to be different from that, because we actually have heard comments from the past, and we have had experience from the past, because the plan is in a shape and format that, for the general public, it's not the most communicable, I don't know if that's a word, communicable material. And it has generated anxiety, confusion, questions, and sometimes outright anger because they see something. Also, people have taken that literal, like they see a little circle there indicating the street light. They take that, it's going to be there, exactly there, after the plan is finalized. Well, many times, when you start to get, I mean, the drill about design. When you get to there, you realize there's something underneath, you have to move it by 5 feet. And we have had many, I will say, confusion and conversation about why did this thing move 5 feet or that. So we really, under the best guidance of communications and engagement experts, the CAPE team, the county level and DES level CAPE team, together helped us to identify a way. That's why many times you see the illustrative concept. Our experience, that has conveyed a better essence to the general public. Again, I recognize that, Dana, that to you, the juice may be in the actual CAD plans, not for everyone.
I wanted to just chime in just a little bit and just thank you for these comments. As Hui was explaining in our process, we generally start with an existing condition. Let's understand what's the problem we're trying to solve, and also understand user experiences of this area. Then the preliminary concept, right? That has the public engagement piece. We take input from that. Between that preliminary concept and the preferred concept, sometimes we'll have more than one concept and we'll say, hey, we need some help working this out. What I am hearing is we need to, like Dana was saying, show the work, tell the story of between that preliminary concept and that concept 1 or 2 or just the preferred. Sometimes it's just there's only one that's in any scenario feasible. We need to do a better job of explaining that and telling that story so you understand how we got there. We have, we have a lot of work we do, and we have a lot of great minds on it. And I think that's what I'm hearing from this is we just need to slow down and better articulate how we got there. So it's just abundantly clear the, 5, 6, 7 options we considered, and also explain to you why that doesn't work. So I just wanted to let you know, I heard that, Dana, and we're gonna work on trying to better articulate that.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
And next I have, is that Mike?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
me. Yeah, I was kind of going where Dana was going in terms of when we get engaged in the amount of information we have. I'm confused though. I mean, I got a letter a few weeks ago appointing me specifically by Mark Schwartz to be on the bike committee. And it says, the purpose of the committee is to advise me and my staff on issues affecting cycling. And now I'm hearing different ways we can more effectively participate in the public engagement process. So it doesn't sound like there's any specific desire or system to really get advice from us other than, hey, go participate in the public process. And when you say the plans aren't good for the general public, well, that's fine. We're not the general public. We're the committee that was specifically appointed by the county manager to provide this kind of advice. And therefore, we might be trusted with technical information that might confuse the public. We might be advised at times when it's not, you know, a nice program that the general public can understand and can give input to. You know, this group really likes talking about the direction and dimension of curb cuts and how they affect bicycling and what the actual configuration of an intersection needs to be. There's very little opportunity for that in the general public because the general public is not going to get into those kind of design and engineering details. The county manager appointed us specifically, I thought, for that purpose. And what I'm hearing now is there's really nothing in the 6-step process that allows for advisory committees, that we're just trying to shoehorn us into a public process in a way that makes sense. That's the way I'm feeling right now. And I'm still confused about why we can't see the plans, 30%, 60%, 90% plans with opportunity. And I understand maybe you don't have time to come to our meetings like you used to, but at least give us the opportunity to not have to comment on a PowerPoint presentation that's got a bunch of colored graphics, but actually let's look at the plans and really provide the input that I thought the county manager wanted from us.
Mike, thank you. And I do want to recognize, I saw a thumbs up, I saw clapping, and I saw some head nodding. So I understand this is your collective question. Again, I'm going to attempt at that. And Valerie, you have more information. Please chime in. One major thing in my head, this may not be, you know, the first one on the list of team's plan and the reason. One major thing is time. Because I remember days when we used to have conversations on projects at the committee meeting, like each one of them, it takes time for that to be reviewed, the conversation to be had, we take that back. And if we add that to the 6th step, which is, you know, for the general public, that's the first thing is adds time. It adds time to the execution time frame. That's one. The second one is if there is information that are, let's say, different or opinion that are, you know, may not be agreeable, we think the committee and the commission and the general public are at the same level of offering feedback. At least I have not found a good way to say, you know, this group's opinion trumps the other group, for example, people who live right there or things like that. So that has made some of, because we do, after we get comments, we do collect data, we do collect information, we do keep records of what we heard and why did we arrive at a certain decision. So that does make it harder. I do hear you though, both you and Dana sort of stressed on there are some specific area that you're looking for that may not have been shown on our basically engagement material. I think Valerie, that's the thing you were alluding to. Like, if there are specific area that's we need to demonstrate in our material, we can definitely look to do that. We can look to do a better job at showing that. The example I gave you was real. It's like when we used to have the plans there, we move every little dots in the next stage. It just generated outcry of you said it's going to be here, which is why we're trying to find a way to convey the concept, but also make sure people get it. It's not a done deal. This is still early in the concept. This group is definitely more sort of immersed in that concept. And I heard you. I would say Elvin and David can really work with you all to identify what is, you mentioned about the curb cuts, right? What else, those specific information you would like to see more? I think we can work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, thanks. So I don't think I can more strongly agree with Mike that it feels like as the Bicycle Advisory Committee that our advice is not being taken seriously, nor is it being sought to provide, the value that we can provide. We are, in fact, in many ways, experts in our own way on many, many, many of these aspects. Some of us are engineers, some of us have just lots of experience. People have lived in the county for a long time. We ride bikes every single day. And it feels like a lot of what you've said is basically just join in with all the rest of the public on, through the public comments, and there you go. So I think that is the county manager actually seeking our advice? And it doesn't feel that way to me. It feels much more like just weigh in where you can. And I can think of 3 specific examples where just me, not everyone else on the committee, have actually weighed in after the county has installed stuff and done it incorrectly and had to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to fix it, where if they had come to us sooner, that wouldn't have happened. And so when you say it's a time saver to not involve us in this whole process, I'm not sure that is true. I think in the end, it may end up costing more time and money to make mistakes and not take the advice of this committee than it would be to make sure we're engaged earlier on. I didn't get a chance to get a screenshot of all this of the slides, but I was looking at the last slide. So the 5 bullets I see: advocate for expansion of laws and local authority to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. So we're not an advocacy organization, right? We're an advisory commission. So I'm not sure what you mean exactly by advocate for and who we advocate to. So that seems like not quite within our authority or what we're expected to do as an advisory committee. Then the second one, express support for ongoing initiatives. I mean, that to me, it's like, okay, we should be sought, our advice should be sought so that we can already tell you what is the best thing to do, not come out after the fact and say, oh yeah, should be doing that, okay? And I'm not sure clearly what help prioritize maintenance of existing sidewalks and bike facilities. I mean, isn't that what the county does? They have to figure out that prioritization. And so they should be coming to us in advance as the advisory committee to determine that prioritization. It's not for us to come in after the fact and say, oh, you should be prioritizing this. Like, all of these bullets don't seem to really reflect what the value of the advisory committee should be providing to the county manager. So I'm sorry I'm ranting, but this all doesn't seem very clear to me about how the county manager should be using this committee with all its skills, expertise, knowledge, experience, and so on and so forth to really move forward. It really feels like we're being sidelined.
Thank you, Steve. And let me start first to clarify. When we say, please use the 6-step opportunity to give project level comments, that does not mean we are not seeking your advice. Actually, I think that is a way to seek your advice. I will say on behalf of my team, and which a lot of times the county manager delegate the projects and also the program level decisions to us. We really are seeking your advice. And I'm trying to basically explain, but I will say, I did hear you. I get the sentiment. I totally get it. What you are telling us is you want us to be more intentionally seeking your advice. In fact, I was having a conversation with my CAPE team, the communications team, to say, how can we, be better organized of giving you information? Maybe there's a way for us to give you an advance notice of the advance notice instead of waiting for you to pick out every newsletter. There are emails that they send to, for example, to neighborhoods. I think they are already doing to some level, but we're seeking a better way to make our intention known. I understand what we mean doesn't mean much until you actually receive that. So which is why we're having the conversation. I do want to hear from you all. I get the sentiment. And you're talking about sort of what is the advisory committee's authority or role. I have to say my comment are less from what authority you have. Again, there may be some regulatory or legal sort of working in there, which I'm not an expert of. What I think is you are the representatives of the pedestrian and the cyclist who know the county, and you are also the people who volunteer your time to push for better, more pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. In that capacity, it is in your heart. And I'm seeking your help of advocacy. That probably isn't written in your bylaw
but
or whatever.
my understanding is we're not an advocacy organization like the Alexandria BPAC and committee. We are an advisory committee. So there's a difference. And if we're supposed to be an advocacy organization, then I think we have to restructure how it works, right?
Well,
right.
Let's not jump to that again. Like I said, the word choice of advocate for things comes from me, and I think that's that. To me, when you write a letter to the elected to say we need to do this and that, to me that is advocacy. Maybe that can also be advisory. Depends on which word fits the best. That's what I mean. Yeah. Have your opinion. Have your vision to be known by more people than this small staff group that's working with you, to be known by others. And I do want to get into the second one of when I say express support. I don't mean that, after things are done, you come to say, yeah, things should be done that way. I'm saying to make it known that this is a good thing. Arlington, we should have more of this. Basically that.
Yeah. Wait, I wanted to just make one statement here. Steve, this slide is really, I believe in the questions that were sent, it was saying, how else can we help? This slide is really getting at ways we do need some help. So advocating to the General Assembly, there are certain things that we just can't do. And it would really be great to help the county by getting that voice out there. For example, I'm just going to use just an example, our Custis Trail, it's an important commuter trail as well. This is something, if the case can be better made to the General Assembly that this is truly a transportation commuter route, that could potentially increase our ability to get some funding through commuter choice. You know, these are just some really tangible ways where it could help us deliver our programs better. So that's just one example for the advocate for expansion and local authority to do other things. We had some other ideas with that one too. But those are just some of the ideas of where, you know, when asked how else can you help, this slide is getting at that.
I think I'm next here, and I think I may be the most appropriate person to jump in on this point, because as an advisory committee, we are specifically not allowed to do exactly that. We are not allowed to write to elected officials as the BAC, because we don't advocate, we don't advise anyone else. We advise the county manager. And he has been extremely clear that he does not want the advisory committees going outside of him. So I'm shocked that you guys are saying this. I'm also frustrated because it was exactly that kind of stuff and Mark Schwartz doing what he did that led a lot of us to say, fine, you're right. That's not advocacy. We're going to start advocacy organizations. We have lots of advocacy organizations that are outside of this group. This group is organized to advise the county manager and county staff. Like, that's what it says. It's 100% clear. That's what the charter is. And I've seen that model work very well. I've seen it work so that it both saves the county time and money and improves the service that we get. But it's not that now. It has been broken. So, for example, what you say about, you know, wanting us to speak up at the state level about the Custis being a community. What used to happen is we used to have a meeting with Parks. Parks doesn't come. But we used to have a meeting with Parks, and we talk about the trail, and we talk about how the Custis is a problem, and it's falling apart again, just a few years after. And Parks would say, well, that's true. One of the issues we have is that we can't get this money because it's not considered a commuter route at the state level. And the BAC couldn't do anything about that, but members of the BAC could take that very useful information, and in our private, you know, private advocacy or private lives, we could act on that information. We don't have that channel anymore. We don't have, and a lot of this is like trust and partnership, because we come every month, volunteer our time, and work really hard with staff to make, you know, to make things better. And it would, you know, we got a partnership, we got a relationship that involved a lot of trust and involved a lot of partnership. But now it's hard to say that, like, I trust staff and I trust what's going on because things aren't communicated to the BAC, PAC, or to others. And I could go through examples of ways that we could be helping you guys. For example, with communication. A lot of times what would happen before is staff would come to the BAC, PAC first, and our questions would lead to improvements in what became the public presentation. But that doesn't happen anymore. So now the public presentation has obvious gaps in it. And then you have a public meeting that's an hour and you spend 15 minutes answering questions, which really should have just been answered by the presentation.
Well, first, let me thank you, Jillian. I know you are way more educated and out there on the law side, so I will trust you on your interpretation. Well, Valerie, I learned something new today, okay? So we need to be careful about using the word advocate, because apparently it carries a certain, you know, autonomy with it. I think you're right. Probably the members, you know, from a private citizen point of view can do that. But nonetheless, that is the one thing that we as staff really advocate to our, I'm using probably the wrong word again. We're trying to ask you know, the county as a whole to go after that. Well, obviously, sometimes we seek doesn't mean we get it today, tomorrow, or ever, but we continue seeking those things. So thank you again. Appreciate that piece of information and detail. I learned something new. I have Cynthia.
Exactly why we have these conversations, right? And if this were not such a rare occurrence, this kind of exchange of information could happen. And I think what you're hearing from all of us is that it's not happening anymore. You're telling us, go be a normal member of the public with respect to feedback. And what we're saying is, wait, I've been appointed to do a specific thing called advising, and I see no way to actually advise you. And so, you know, work with us. We're saying we want to volunteer time to help you. And it seems like you guys are like, nah, just be normal member of the public, which, you know, is disappointing. It's disappointing both because I want to see stuff for people walking and biking improved, but it's also disappointing because I care about the county doing its job well. And I think you're missing an opportunity to do your job well for very little investment.
I hear you and I get your point. I do want to say though, this, you know, this meeting is recorded. I don't want to send the wrong message to the public who, you know, may be listening or may actually choose to watch the recording, that when we do engagement, their opinion is just not, because when you come as a member of that, or when they come as a member of the public, all opinions, we value them. We do. We value them, we record them, we meticulously go through that and see what are the things that we can. I get this whole sentiment about, you know, why don't you have a separate step, basically coming to the BAC and PAC and for the additional work together. I would say it really comes down to resources and how to use that the best way. The 6-step guidance at the beginning, when we implemented that, we had to adjust a lot of our timeline and our project cost and things like that to make sure we are following that guidance. And with that, we are trying to catch a larger group, you know, cast a bigger net, catch a larger group. But I want to emphasize, we heard you about there are things that you guys are have more expertise and you want us to seek that. And we're going to go back and think through what additional things, what intentional communication we can do so that, you know, you actually feel your opinion is not throwing a black hole and is being valued. So we're gonna work on that.
It's not about my feelings. It's really about you guys are missing something here. Like, it used to be that, like I said, the presentation would be done in front of us and we would say, we can't read that map. Or what do you mean by, you know, some technical jargon that was in there that wasn't clear. And then the presentation that was shown to the public was a better presentation because of it. And you guys could get better feedback. Or you want to reach a larger group. That's another thing. They would come to us and say, here's our plan for outreach. And we would say, hey, you know what you're missing on that plan? Or also there's this other thing happening. Or, you know, that sort of thing. It only happens in a dialogue. It doesn't happen in a one-way thing. And it happens because there's a relationship, there's trust, and there's a dialogue. The stuff that I see on this list either is, like I said, not stuff we're allowed to do, or it's stuff that's like, yeah, I can write an email, but why would I? I mean, that's just, It's just throwing stuff into the wind and like, why am I spending my time on it? What we're saying is we've been appointed to do a thing. Please develop a relationship with us and let us do the thing. And what I'm hearing you say is we want you to feel valuable. It's like,
no,
that's not
what I'm saying is, what I'm reacting to the comment is, I don't think it's true. I don't think that's staff's approach or intention to ignore or not seeking advice. Again, we continue to believe we are seeking advice. We're just seeking advice in a different way of format, that we're trying to balance the timeline, the cost, and the overall project approach. And that need to be on all projects. Not every project has, certain components, and we're trying to make sure all projects are being done in the way the board has asked us to. So in that, there are some individuality got changed, and I want to confirm that this whole group's opinion is still valued, and we do seek your comments. We actually now have more communication and engagement experts helping us with the community engagement and event like that. I have seen a great improvement on the quality and the flow of those work. However, that doesn't mean there are things that everything is perfect. If you notice things, let us know. We will make sure next time that the mistake is not repeating itself. But
I used to
spending
these
time
meetings and let you know, and now it's like, how do I let you know?
There is the open comment period that you can comment on everything, including the delivery of the engagement.
So what I'm hearing from you is seeking advice from us is the same as community engagement from everyone else. And I don't understand why you bother appointing people to one committee when you're going to treat them exactly like you're going to seek their advice in the same way that you engage everyone else. It's the same thing. Why bother?
Yeah, that's where I think the two slides, and including the one before this one, that's why we have that. This body is more than just project. These two bodies are more than just project. There are other things. There are valuable input we seek from you all. So I think you are in all these steering group or working group, advisory group for planning level, long-term efforts. And we were talking about in your question of what else we can do. There are expanding things. We are trying to open up the horizon from just the project to more than that. And there are, there's an advisory group on, for example, the Arlington Transportation Future. I know both teams are actively in there. Although you only have like 1 or 2 person that attend the meeting, I bet you are having your group conversation so that that person will carry the collective information. And that person probably is also carrying the material back to the group to have the collective wisdom so that, can then kick it back to us. Those are the work that I bet you all are doing, not necessarily with the staff always being present.
And that's what our second half of our meeting is going to be about today, actually. So.
Thank you, Eric. And that's also a cue for me to I'm watching the time. I don't want to make you guys have to stay too late. And Eric, you're the next one.
I'm going to be very brief because Cynthia has been waiting very patiently. Just as far as maybe a compromise, something that might be helpful for us. I think you gave me some good guidance that we could assign folks to different projects and bring those back to the committee. It would be helpful for the staff that's assigned to us to be sort of clued in on different projects and give us a heads up on those. So that would allow us to assign folks, sort of focus folks on different things, and then they can bring that back to the committee as well. So
Thank you,
I
Eric.
would ask maybe providing them with some of that information that they can bring
Yes.
when we meet with them.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Eric. We already are thinking about that and how to best to do that. And yes, thanks for the comment. And Cynthia, finally coming to you. I don't know how your queue keeps going to the next one.
We're good. Thank you. So rather than drag this out, because I know time is precious, but I will simply second what Mike, Dana, Steve, Jillian, Eric, and anyone else said. I think these are all very important issues that we should continue to grapple with. And I think the expertise in this room is tremendous. I mean, as others have said, we have multiple engineers, we have people who know every single curb cut in the county. I mean, it's unbelievable. It blows me away, and I bike and run everywhere every day also. But just, how much my colleagues know, and this is a resource that is not being used. As you see from this meeting, we are more than happy to meet together. We communicate with the BAC. I mean, the BAC and the PAC communicate virtually every single day. We're more than happy to involve other vulnerable road users, including the disability community. We could all meet together, once every couple of months or whatever works for DES, but I still feel like sometimes a 5-minute conversation with our committees can avert a tremendous financial and time, and I mean, just like it can save you resources and money and everything else if we just have that occasional conversation about key items, whether it's a third parallel bridge over in Shirlington, which nobody uses and nobody needed, but we have it. We're not going to complain, but there are things that we could tell you so quickly that might just help. Before we run out of time, I would love to mention also, as we said in the letter to you, we did have this very same conversation in March with County Manager Schwartz, and his suggestion was, oh, BAC and PAC should be engaged in design standards and policy making for the county. And we're certainly interested in design standards, but we had a lot of questions and we raised them in our letter. We don't want to step on toes, for one. We're trying to figure out how this could possibly work. I mean, for sure, we have ideas. We also wanted to raise that question in the context of the MTP. I mean, of the master transportation planning. Might there be like an accompanying document with design standards that gets updated every year or two? We would be happy to engage in something like that. I think it could be very useful. I wanted to I know that we're over time, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that whole set of questions.
Yeah. I will say, being an engineer and used to also do design, and also I know quite some people of your group very much know that. I do find the general comment of design standard need to be very carefully I would say deliberated. There are design standard that's coming from, either science or safety data or research or things that like that. I don't want to misguide people thinking into like, all those elements can be debated. And then there's also things that we're obligated to, it's mandatory, let's not use the word obligation. It's mandatory that we must comply. However, there are things that we work to improve. For example, again, this is a very immersed, knowledgeable group. For example, when you hear us cite the MUTCD, the MUTCD is mandatory. Doesn't mean every single item in there is up to date. Do I dare to say that, right? So there are things that we would like to see a change, and it takes time. We actually have our staff participating in the committees, trying to encourage or even just push for change, for evolving that to the current day, and many of those. So I think the conversation about standard, I would like for us to stay on the what you don't like. And we can talk about, is the reason of we don't like that, is that something a hard standard we have to follow, or is that something that we actually have authority, or we have ways, means to investigate and to influence a change? I would rather go that way. I saw your letter ask us, like, show us what are the standards you have, or the things. I don't want to send both teams into the spiral down to dig out all standards and evaluate every single item. Let's talk about the things that we, Arlington, we like, we want, and the things that we think should be changed. And we can have that conversation and get to what next step we have. Thank you, Cynthia, for bringing that one up. I actually thought about commenting on that at the beginning. And again, I apologize for taking longer time, but I see one more hand, and let me try to get to
Elliot.
Okay, Elliot.
Oh, yeah, just one quick comment. It's more of like a rhetorical question, but like I want y'all to try and think about like recently when you've like changed decisions based off input from these committees, which because, back to like the point of like what the committees are chartered to do. So like theoretically that should hopefully be very often, but I don't know. I would think that the answer isn't a ton recently. So
thank you for that comment. I don't have that off the top of my head. I do want to say though, many of you, like I said, many of you wear different hats. I saw you at, a lot of the Vision Zero activities, and you helped implement a lot of stuff that's new or newer in Arlington, and you helped make Arlington the envy of the neighbors. That means something. That means something. That is contribution. So your time is not wasted, honestly. To talk about, I would just say, in terms of value your input and value your advice. Again, I hear that. And we are bringing this information back. Although I am sharing my thoughts with you, doesn't mean all I'm thinking tonight is the absolute right thing. This is an open conversation, trying to tell you what's going on in our neck of the woods, right? We have so many projects. Valerie probably can tell, like 100 or something project.
Well, we have over 60 active just in my
Over
bureau.
60 projects active.
Just in my bureau.
So on any given day, we are chasing a deadline. Where are you on this one? Where are you on that one? So we benefit from having a more streamlined communication engagement effort. I have to be honest with you on that. We benefit from that because it comes in one scoop and it's clean and we can look at them, we can analyze them all together. Would we gain additional quality if we actually stretch that longer and have a more intentional, specific, communication? Because, not only you, there's also the TAC, there's also the senior group, so disability group. And so there are many groups. Would it benefit the quality if we stretch that longer and have more intentional conversation? I think yes. Will we be able to achieve the same amount of productivity? Even though sometimes you guys laugh at us for misstep here and there, would the productivity, can we maintain that at the current level? Then we will not be. And we are trying to make sure we're not wasting your money, taxpayers' money. We're trying to make sure we crank out productivity. So on one hand, we are, trying to do our best. On the other hand, we are really asking your understanding to help us. It does help. It does help the execution when things are more streamlined. Again, hear you, understand your comments. I'm taking it back. My team will have debrief. We will talk about these things. We will continue to think, are there additional things we can do to, to maintain our trust? I have to say, without significantly sort of delay the execution timeline. That is something also sort of it's hanging on our heads as staff team. Well, I've taken additional 20 minutes or even more.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your coming and answering questions. Hopefully we can have further discussions about standards. I saw some of the chat and I won't go into in detail, but it does talk about things that have changed. EV, I guess, electric bicycles, cargo bikes, other things like that. As standards, I mean, as things develop, standards also develop. So I think we would like to be in that conversation in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I hate to ask this, but I wonder if we can think. I wonder if the pedestrian committee, because there's 5 of us, are there not 5 of us here now?
No, unless other people showed up.
There was John was here as well. I think if there
that would be 4. Is he still here?
And then Jim Feaster as well, and
oh, okay. Then we have 5
people.
Okay.
If we can quickly just approve minutes and move on, can we do that?
Yes. Okay, thank you. I didn't realize the other people. I sent him a message. I didn't hear back. Yes, I would like a motion from PAC members, some PAC members, to approve the draft minutes from the joint BAC virtual meeting on Teams Wednesday, September 10th, 2025.
So
anybody? Okay. Any second?
I second.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion of them? I think I did send these up. All right. No discussion. Anyone voting against the draft minutes, say no. That's good. And PAC members present, if you are in favor of the minutes, say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's done. Good.
All
okay.
right.
Now we move
Thank
on.
you. So we'll move on to the next item. Thanks so much, Pam.
Thank you.
So it's going to be Pam and Mike are going to present to us on the Arlington's transportation future, or the MTP update.
Right. And David, if you can pull up the PowerPoint, we will go through this as fast as we can.
Yes, I'm going to take the screen and call up the slides.
And I will say,
I-
oh, that's
I
pretty, but that's
practiced-
not it.
No. I practiced ahead of time. Here it is. It's covered up by the faces of the people in the meeting. Come on. There we are.
Oh, very good. Make it bigger.
Yep. I'm going to make it full screen.
Yay.
Come on.
As he's talking, I'm going to say this is the introductory screen, and I'm Pam Van Heim. I am the PAC liaison to the advisory group for Arlington's Transportation Future, and Mike Hanna is the BAC representative on the same group. Next slide. Next. All right, this is what we're going to cover tonight. I'm going to go through everything super quickly. The good news is that you can review these slides later. I strongly encourage everyone here, if you have not listened to Kristen's presentation from the 9/11 meeting, please do. This is a very important next step, and it will help you understand it. All right, so I'm going to cover a little bit about what we covered in the 9/11 advisory group meeting, the draft maps for gap analysis, which is fun, the PAC perspectives, back perspectives, which Meg will do, next steps, and 2 homework assignments, and we're going to do this very quickly. Next slide. Okay, we are working on modal priority and modal priority maps, which is fun. So from Arlington's perspective, future and the refreshed transportation plan, modal priority is defined as the following: a designation to design and operate a street to prioritize the safety, comfort, and efficiency of a specific mode. And the part in blue is very important. A modal priority does not mean other modes cannot travel on or are not accommodated. They are just not the priority design. So next slide. All right, now the current MTP elements do have modal elements, or are modal elements. There are 6 of them. Parking and TDM related ones are not transportation per se, so we're not discussing them. The current 4 elements were written separately rather than collaboratively with other elements. They are siloed, and there are often conflicts between them because they were done separately. So you are probably familiar with all these, and if you're not, you should be reading them. Bicycle, pedestrian, streets, and transit. And probably most of us are least familiar with transit, and it's going to be very important in this process, so we should bone up on it. Next slide, please. Okay, so the traditional way of doing that is just kind of capturing what is there. And it's talking very much about the infrastructure and planning for the infrastructure. It has the locations and it's very descriptive. But with the modal priority network, which is where we're going now, you are prioritizing future investments and projects, how we should be investing our transportation money and staff, and making sure that everything is working correctly, and it is evaluative and strategic as opposed to just descriptive. All right, next slide. Okay, defining priority. I'm going to do the blue part first. Pedestrian priority will be applied globally, county-wide as the top priority. This is very exciting to the PAC. And the reasons for this are on the left side. Engagement has said that walking is our most common mode of transportation. They want to walk more. Transit's the mode people want to invest more. And as we all know, pedestrians and bicyclists are the most vulnerable. And walking is actually very cost effective. It's a good thing to promote, and it's easy for most people. Not everyone, but for most people. So pedestrians are at the top, and then for the different quarters that they're doing this for, modal priority networks will be developed for transit and bicycles and micromobiles, and usually selecting one or the other. Next slide. All right, again, pedestrians are at the top, and the second tier is usually bike or transit. Sometimes both can be accommodated, but often not. And then at the bottom are cars. What has been said at the meeting is cars already have streets. That people are still going to drive. They are not a priority. So we certainly would support that. We want people to do walking and biking and transit. And the bottom line is also important. Networks assume continued access for vehicles, however, they're not the priority mode. And when there are overlaps in the modal priority networks, mainly between bikes and transit, there is a flow chart that staff use to determine one or the other. Next slide, please. Okay, this, and I'm not going to read everything in blue. It explains how transit works versus how bike and micromobiles work. I'll read the bike one because we care more about that. Priority informs where safe, low-stress facilities are needed to provide east-west and north-south connectivity across the county. I think I would probably expand that, but oh, can you go back, please?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to point out the bottom, which is very important in black on white. Green streets, biophilia, and curbside use will be covered through policy. They're not modes of transportation, so they're not part of the maps. Trees, greenery, and curb use are important for public space and have roles in transportation decision-making, but are not modal priorities. But all of the committees and commissions on the advisory group that are involved with those are going to be super involved with setting policies on those, and as will the PAC. So next slide, as will the BAC. All right, so this is the summary. So again, pedestrian priority will be applied globally. And on the maps, they don't show the pedestrian routes because they're everywhere. I kind of disagreed with that, but yeah, I can see their point. The maps get really crowded. The plan will decide which mode is designed for second. Following pedestrians provide for safe, comfortable, and efficient travel, and that's going to be transit versus bike/micromobiles. And the corridors will have modal hierarchies, and staff are mapping the second and sometimes third priority for all major corridors. And that's what they've done on the draft maps. Modal networks will be developed for transit and bicycle and micromobility. Next slide. And this is an important slide. This shows what staff have done so far and what they're doing next and what we are doing next. So staff did 1 and 2. They looked at all the current elements in detail and other guidelines, and they tried to smush them together and see whether it worked. Well, the answer is it doesn't always work. Things that are in like the transit element or the bike element don't always, for specific streets, don't always work. There isn't enough space to do everything. One of the big examples that we were told about in the meeting is Glebe. That is in the bicycle element is something highly desirable, and but it has been assigned a transit priority because it's also very important for buses, and there really isn't room for both, and the sidewalks are terrible. Anyway, what we are doing now, and this is homework assignment 1, is the gap analysis to evaluate access to location and importance. And it's a matter of all they have on the maps right now are schools. There are obviously many places that people want to go to in Arlington besides schools, whether it's hospitals or libraries or a whole bunch of things, parks, and a lot of those need to be added to the map. And anything else that you can think of that's not there, send it to Mike if it's a BAC person, or me if it's a PAC person, and we'll add them to our lists. That's one thing, is identifying the missing destinations, and the other is our gaps in specific corridor routes that they have listed, and just as important, if not more important, where are entire routes missing that we think are really important, whether it's, and this is especially true for, well, transit or bikes, but in the case of the BAC, you're going to really focus probably on the bike ones. Next slide. I'm not going to go over this, but this is the flow chart on how staff resolve the overlaps between transit and bike. And if there's enough space, you can do both. If there really isn't a need for one or the other, you can just do the one, but always pedestrians are on top. And that's a good slide to study in the slide set, but we're not going to go into all the details right now. It does kind of work. Next slide. Okay. So we're almost done for this part. So staff put together modal priority draft maps for gap analysis. They brought into the meeting these huge maps, and we all sat around tables and worked on them. They already did stage 1 and 2, so they deconflicted and prioritized transportation modes on these maps. So if there wasn't room for bike and transit, they resolved that theoretically. Okay, and so there's 3 maps, bike and micromobility, transit and combined transit, bike and mobility. And I recommend that you look at all of them when you're thinking about comments. Next slide. Oh, these are going to be the 3 maps. I'm not going to, well, this is how they appear in the slide deck from the meeting. If you go in, it's the last 3 slides from the meeting. And if you go in there and pull up each one, you can expand it like 400 or more. And you can see the individual streets and really pay attention to it. This is the bike and micromobility as the staff proposed it. Next. This is transit. Next. Next slide. Oh, this is combined. So this is everything. You can see it's actually, this is very confusing, but it actually shows you which routes have both, which it's kind of like by the width of the line, a little bit in the shades and the color. And apparently, when one does maps like this that are color coded, you have to be very sensitive to color blindness, and there's only certain colors you can use that pretty much anyone can see. So it could be very hard for people who don't have color blindness to figure out some of this stuff. But if you expand it enough, you can see the finer details. And we are moving on to the next slide. This is what we're going to be doing as homework assignment 1. So these are sort of pedestrian perspectives. My perspectives personally, actually. This is great news for the PAC. Pedestrian modal prioritization means that we are number 1. They will make sure that we have sufficient space for comfort, safety, and convenience before allocating space for other transportation modes. And I'll give you an example of one of the proposed routes. Well, actually 2 of them in my neighborhood, 23rd Street and 20th. 23rd is for transit, 20th is for bikes. Both of these go up over the ridge, which is a very steep hill on both sides, with a terrible crossing for bikes. And for 20th Street, especially, the sidewalks are terrible. It's missing blocks of sidewalks. So figuring out how to make 20th Street great for bikes is going to be a real challenge. I think it's necessary. It's an important route, but it's going to be hard. And things like that are very important for us to catch. The current pedestrian element are often inadequate and needing updating. And we will need to advocate strongly for the guidelines, which are going to be coming up soon, that meet the needs of pedestrians of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds. Really get into the nitty-gritty details. What is an acceptable clear width, etc. How do the pedestrian ramps need to be designed that really serve everybody? And then finally, when a corridor is transit priority, the PAC will need to advocate for additional pedestrian space as bicyclists and micromobile riders may share the sidewalks. I think that's a really important point that we need to look for that. And next slide is Mike's.
Yeah, thanks. So from a bike perspective, not as happy as the pedestrians. Because we're not blanket first priority everywhere. And a lot of it is confusion. So I'm less concerned about the pedestrians, though it's not clear to me if they discounted some bike routes because they assessed that there was additional pedestrian space needed. We don't know. So we don't know if they've already made that decision in places. So we just went ahead and added, or I'm going to advocate for adding places where we think we need to have bike facilities. And if if there's a reason why they didn't do it, we'll need to find out. We don't know any. So they did, comparing it to the bike element map, they included some, but not all. There's a lot of gaps that are sort of unexplained. So we're going to fill those in, at least on our comments back. We don't know what priority two, that's the best bike routes, what that means, because we don't have design standards to say, okay, so what you're saying is if it's got a dark green line, then we're going to get a protected bike lane or a cycle track or something like that. It's also not clear what if the bus is priority, what does that mean from a design standard perspective? And is that something, if it's a route that we really feel is important for biking, should we be fighting that prioritization of transit if it's going to result in a design that makes it dangerous for bikes? It's hard to know because there's none of that's clear. As Pam said, it's unclear how since they sort of took traffic and also, by the way, parking sort of off the table for discussion. We don't know what that means also then in terms of if it's a bike priority, does that mean a bike priority, but we're going to keep it, say, a 4-lane highway, talk about Washington Boulevard, for instance, because we need it for the traffic, or would that be prioritized for biking and we lose the traffic lane? None of that. And they kept saying that'll be a policy decision later. So it's critical we get involved in policy. And then there was also some confusion about there are routes through the county that sort of kind of work now with a few improvements. But they're not really the very, very best we could imagine, but they're sort of the best we think we can get in the short term or even medium term. Should we be identifying those, or should we be identifying, look, ultimately, when you get around to it, we should have a bike facility along, for instance, Washington Boulevard or the entire length of Wilson Boulevard. And I got an answer that wasn't clear. They said ultimate, but then I said, well, Jackson would be great if we could fix the intersections. And they said, well, we're never going to fix that intersection. So don't try that. So I'm still not clear exactly what the exercise is. Note that they did not ask us to identify the most critical bike corridors. They asked us to fill in gaps. So when you look at the map, there's a lot of gap filling in, once again, which isn't clear. So Pam, were you able to get the map I put into the next slide?
It's the next slide. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put up the next. So the next slide. So several of us have been sort of engaged on this. And the red on this map are things we've added, basically, where there were gaps, we thought, routes that weren't properly identified. I mean, some were truly gaps where they had identified a bike prioritization, but there was like 2 blocks in the middle that were missing, and no explanation why. So we sort of filled a lot of those places in. There are other places that are currently relatively decent bike routes that with some improvement could be even better ones. And so we've sort of identified those. And then we identified a few that it's just really important to get good bike access through this area. So this is all due, and Pam's probably going to say this, back to the committee this coming Monday. I probably could, get an exception and maybe be a few days late if I had to be. But so for the bike committee folks, this document is up on, I put a Google Doc so you can get it, or you can get to the slides. And please look at it and see if there's any more gaps that need to be filled in, places where you feel like a bike facility really is, or a bike corridor with a good facility is really needed. We've also discussed commenting more generally that we need a north-south and an east-west route every quarter mile or so. Pick a number, and then staff, figure it out. Work with us maybe, but figure out what the possibilities are, because a lot of this is kind of what's possible. So with that, I think I'm good unless there's any questions on that stuff.
Okay, I've got 2 more slides, very quick, and then we're going to talk about the homework. This is the timeline for the entire project. We are now doing the gap analysis. Staff will be taking all of our comments and, the entire advisory group, and there's like 14 different committees and commissions on it. Will be sending in their homework by Monday, and they'll put it together with their own thoughts and go out and do public engagement starting, I think, October 27th or something. And as it's going to go on for 2 months. A lot of this is going to be controversial, no matter what your group is, including drivers and people with disabilities. And yes, there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to be, that's my cat, that'll be, that need to get worked out before this is done. And once, I guess, the fall engagement is over, we're going to get into the actual policy making, and that's going to be pretty heavy duty. I see Eric Goodman's hand is up. Is there something you want to ask, Eric?
Yeah, when is your next meeting that you're kind of bringing that back, and then and then information on how people can get involved in public engagement as well.
Yeah, I will push that out. Not right now, but yes, I will keep. And they haven't sent it out yet, but I'll push it out. Make sure that the packet and make sure Cynthia gets it. Our next meeting is October 22nd. And then we will not meet again, I think, until December. There's going to be a lot of stuff churning between now and December, but we're ready to get into policy soon. Yeah. Next slide. Yes. So this is the upcoming advisory meetings. So that I just gave you the date. It was October 22nd. And community engagement does start on the 27th, running through December 7th. And then in early December, once that's over, there will be a report out on the phase 3 content, etc. But then in midwinter, we get into refined modal priority networks and plan policies. So once we get into the policies, it's going to really be the nitty gritty, and that's going to be pretty soon. And they will be all done maybe by spring 2026. So next slide, we're almost done. We have 2 homework assignments. Both are due on October 13th. Before I go to bed tonight, I am going to send the PAC a reminder about everything, and I want your comments back by Friday because I've got a really terrible weekend and I need to get things going by Friday. What I have on this slide are the questions that the advisory group sent to Kristen and what her answers were. So this is possibly helpful. And the first one is actually Mike's question. What do you want us to identify? And again, it's right now we're working on understanding what pieces are missing. And my understanding is that it's the individual little gaps, the destinations that aren't listed, and entire routes that are missing. And I think it's really important to look for entire routes that should be added that are there. Well, one of which is 28th Street. Again, it's not that it's not a route, it's a bus route, a transit route, and it really should also be a bike route. It's such a wonderful place to bike, and it really cuts off a lot of unnecessary travel around our neighborhood. It was on my list, and I'm encouraging the Packers to do this, but also the BAC members to really look at the transit map and look at the combined map and make sure you raise issues where you don't think it should be transit priority or something else needs to be done to make it better. And I think there are sites like that that you probably really care about and you want to push for. Also identifying gaps for the whole network. Yep. And I think that's important. And this is the one that we don't really understand. We want a forward-looking network that we are working towards, not near-term and long-term route recommendations. Well, if it's not long-term route, okay. What's the difference between long-term route and a forward-looking network? Anyway, my questions were these two about transit 2 and bike 3 or the inverse mean. I don't know if this is helpful, but so first it's pedestrians, I'm sorry. And then sometimes there's room for both, but transit or bike is still going to be first. And if there's not a third priority, it means that the staff don't think there's room for the other priority. And if there's those that you need to push back, you need to push back. But I sent a detailed kind of instructions to the PAC on what I did, how I analyze this stuff, which Cynthia has. I will copy what I do tonight for Cynthia as well, and if anything else that you want to share with the BAC is fine with me. So that's the first one, and I think this is a really, 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 really important project, and we want to do the best possible job we can to identify as many issues as we can. Next slide. All right, this is homework 2, which I personally don't think is as important as the other. The county board approved with changes the final goals for the transportation plan. I'm not going to read all these. I can read it off. For each of these, we are supposed as a committee. So it's not. So if everybody sends in comments, someone, whether it's Mike, me, or whoever, are going to have to decide for each committee. You have to limit it to 2 or 3 opportunities, or up to 3 opportunities or challenges for each. I will give you an example of mine for the equitable and inclusive. For opportunity, I have a strong county DEI policies and programs, collaboration with the DAC, COA, TAC, and other county organizations, working with local community groups to prioritize needs and plans. The challenges are insufficient funds to fix all the infrastructure, insufficient political will. And we have an email from Randy that has his suggestions, which are excellent, if we can put that up.
Yeah, actually, this is a doc. If it comes up, this is a Google Doc that I created from Randy's comments, because the idea was I put up the Google Doc for the BAC so we could all get in there and put our comments in, and I cut and pasted Randy's in since he had emailed them. So far, nobody else has been in there, I don't think. So I would encourage folks in the next 2 or 3 days, if you're having trouble getting into the Google Doc and you want to just email me comments, that's fine too. But I'll need to kind of consolidate. Randy's were all good. Here, let me, if Dave's not going to put it up, I'll put them up real quick just so you guys can see it. Share screens, be right there, so you guys can see this. So basically, I took each of the subjects, put it in purple, and then Randy put some really good stuff in here. But I put his name, and what I'd like is if other folks do it, kind of put your name in front of it so I know who's they're from, and then I'll try to consolidate all of them. Or if you read them and we all agree that Randy's just done a great job, now I'm going to have to consolidate a little bit down to the 3, but but otherwise, this is an opportunity for us to give some input. So let me know if you have trouble getting to the link, trouble getting into the document, or just want to send me some comments from the email I sent a few weeks ago.
Do you think they'll be upset if we have more than 3? I probably not. They'll probably be happy to have more.
Well,
No. They said they don't. They definitely wanted to put a limit. I mean, there's 14 groups and what is it? 6 things and 2 issues for each thing. That's a lot of things. If you times 3, that's already. They just couldn't deal with infinite numbers. Although certainly we could all come up with infinite numbers. Cynthia, you had a question?
Yeah, are you finished? I don't want to interrupt.
I think we're done. I think we're ready
You're
for
done with
Q&A.
this
That was the
slide?
last slide.
Okay, fantastic. Great presentation. First of all, I just want to say huge thanks to the 2 of you, Pam and Mike. This has been an incredible amount of work I recognize, and I'm just very, very grateful. I do have a few questions with regard to, I mean, it's important to jump through their hoops. I might not have designed this process in the same way, but I think it's also important to raise questions about their assumptions. And I'm just a little nervous about some elements of this. They say that pedestrians are top priority. I think that makes total sense, and that's great. And yet, we all know that the most resources by far go to cars. Might that change? Is there any, budgetary allocation that will come with being number 1? I would hope so. Second, when do these changes happen? Like, when does this network get created? Because up till now, it has been largely when cars need the roads repaved. Like, is that going to shift? Now that pedestrians are number 1 and bikes and transit are competing for number 2. And then what does it mean to have like a bike route that, I mean, right now, our premier bicycle, like Arlington Loop, has at least a couple really scary, horrible intersections, in my opinion. So if that is considered like done, like not a gap, then we have a serious problem. And I would like to be focusing very much on the crossings, because that is the most dangerous part for all of us, where pedestrians and cyclists are being hit and sometimes hurt. And then simply this question of the conflict between bikes and transit. I don't like that. I don't think it's set up right. Why is it that cars go everywhere, and why is it that we're not considering, like, maybe in some places we should remove a lane or restrict access for cars? Like, why does the status quo for cars have to be like the standard that's untouchable, or is it? Maybe they're thinking of more possibilities. I don't know.
That's a lot of questions.
It is. Thank you.
I'll probably forget half of them. I'll start with your last one. And if Chris is still here, he can chime in too, since he's the chair of the group.
Yeah.
I don't know where anybody else is still here. My understanding for cars, and things are changing, that yes, and I probably don't want to be quoted on this, now, that there, as you saw in the triangle, cars are on the bottom. So theoretically, bikes and transit have a higher priority. Yes, there is an existing network that cars can use. Anybody can use, theoretically. That's not going to change. But as corridors are developed, and this has happened certainly in my neighborhood, and I think it's happening throughout the county, cars are getting less space. They're losing lanes, they're narrowing lanes, and that space is going to bikes usually. And I think that's a trend. One of your other questions is what is the timeline to be done? This is all part, my understanding, of Libby's 2050 project. So I think a general goal is 2050. We'll all be long gone by then, but so it's a very much a long-term project. What were your other couple questions?
So given the time, you don't have to answer them all, but
Okay.
and we can go on to Jillian because she's
Yeah.
got a hand up.
Okay.
But just things
We
to
can
think about
answer
as you
some
go
of
in the
them.
meeting.
So your first two questions are like not for this step. This step is what should the network be? So in other words, if the trail is drawn on the network, that doesn't say it's done. It's just that's where the network should go. And then there'll be a next step that says what are the standards, the basic standards for the network. So we really should just focus on gaps. Like literally where do these lines not connect and where they're not lines that don't go to a place we want to go to. Like it's actually, that part's really simple. I put this in the chat, but I just want to highlight that my thoughts are influenced by the conversation we had at the Fiscal Affairs Advisory Commission, which isn't transportation focused, has a lot of like normies, like a lot of people who get around in various ways. People who have cars, people who don't have cars, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, and they looked at this process and they say, wait, where do cars go? And I'm really worried that it's dead, that if we keep going in this direction, it's dead. Because when you look at those maps, there's a lot of gray lines on the maps. And either what you're saying, like look at the combined transit bike map, there's a lot of gray lines. And if you're saying that cars can go on all of those gray lines, what's going to happen is they will flow to where there's not. And, you know, some of those gray lines are the neighborhood streets that people like having low volume. And everyone understands what happens, that there will be much higher car volume on the streets that are gray in the map. So I'm really worried. I'm also worried that staff is committing right now to not limiting cars on the network, which, you know, they say the standards are in the next step. But if the standards are hemmed in by cars aren't limited, I think we're done. Like, why are we even here? Why do we continue to talk about this? We can nibble around the edges, but what are we doing here? With pedestrians, if everywhere is a priority, nowhere is a priority. In fact, we deal with these funding decisions and we look to the comprehensive plans to say, like, where is it that we're going to fund first? And it seems like if the answer is everywhere, that means nowhere. And from conversations with staff, they don't even think that projects will be initiated because of the need to improve walking. It's more like we pick projects for other reasons, and then we also improve walking while we pick those projects, which is never going to get you a great network because it means we'll get it here and we'll get it there. We'll get it piecemeal, which is what we've been doing, which is what doesn't work. And then finally, transit. Transit's the key. Like if we can't get transit right, we're not getting people out of cars. And we were told during the transit strategic plan process, we're not fundamentally changing transit now because we're going to do that during the MTP update. But now we're in the MTP update and we're saying, oh no, we're just going to take the maps from the TSP. We just did a TSP. And people don't take transit because it doesn't work for them. The routes are bad. Like if you want to get from Wakefield to Boston, you have to go all the way around your bum.
Well, and they were clear that the maps were not intended to identify bus routes. They were identifying roadways in which they want to improve transit access through that, right? So And I get that there's
Have
it's
to
kind
know
of a
the
difference,
routes for that.
but so, right. It does seem a little counterintuitive, but there was a lot of discussion. Matter of fact, the Transportation Committee person was on, I mean, the mass transit person was on my table, and she was saying, well, no, we need to be able to get from here to here. And they said, well, no, there'll still be buses. I mean, you could still put a bus route through this area. We're just saying we're going to make this other route the bus corridor. So I'm not sure I understand what they're saying here, right?
Think about getting to Wakefield High School, because I think if you
Oh.
look at the route, the maps they have there, we have the opportunity to get a lot of kids. There would be a lot of kids who would take the art bus to Wakefield High School, but the current route is dumb and no one wants to take it.
Right.
It basically
Right.
goes around the edge of the county and eventually cuts on Wilson Boulevard to Boston. And it goes to Shirlington along the edge of the county. Nobody wants to go.
Right.
And so,
Right.
think about how these maps would work for a bus route that makes more sense for Wakefield High School. I don't think it does. So,
Can I put you on hold for just a second here?
Yeah.
We're right at 9 o'clock. Certainly we can continue the conversation, but I want to give Mary and Ellen and others folks to just, if they have any announcements, to do that, and then we can potentially officially end the meeting, but we can continue the discussion. So
Not too long though.
well, it'd be up to what folks want to do. I don't have a problem with that, but I just want to make certain Mary Delau is here, as well as Ellen and David. I just want to see, are there any announcements?
I mean, my main quick thing is Lighten Up Arlington coming up again, October 28th, 29th, and 30th. So we'll be in the usual spots on the WNOD at Columbia Pike on the 30th, and then we'll be in National Landing the 29th and Rosin on the Custis on the 28th. Since we're low on time, that's the main thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah, if you can kind of send out a reminder as we're getting closer, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And I'll get it in Randy's. I know Randy always helps get the word out, so I'll definitely get it to you, Randy, for your listserv.
Yeah. And you're looking for volunteers, right?
Yeah, if you're interested, sure. By
Oh,
all
water
means.
park, of course.
Yeah, I know, it's right in your hut. So yeah, I can get that out.
Yeah, thank you.
And so Ellen, and did you have anything more, Mary?
No, I think I'm good for now.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so
Thank you,
much. And Ellen, do you have anything, or David, that you'd like to announce before we sort of conclude the business part?
Not much from me. Just wanted to thank y'all for helping me with the membership letters. Those are finally approved, and we officially have 14 members of the BAC now.
Wow, congratulations. We're jealous.
I'll pass. This has been a good long meeting. I'll pass.
Okay. Okay. And Cynthia, did you have anything else?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, Jillian, if you want to continue, I have no problem with continuing the discussion. I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to make certain that we concluded business.
I appreciate it. Those are my main concerns. I think everything else is sort of nibbling around the edges. And I think that staff is really worried about time. But I think that if they continue in this way, we're going to end up with something that's not useful.
Yeah, my hope, and this is, I'm probably being overly optimistic here, but my hope is that if we get the mapping halfway right, identify these are the bike priority corridors, that then maybe we can push for some policies around those that will get us further along the road. And they could be things like, one of the things I've mentioned to staff was, okay, you're not going to come and talk to us about every project in the county, but let's have a deal that if there's anything that impacts a bike corridor identified in the new transportation plan, you will come to us and discuss that project and what it's going to look like. That, I mean, I'll probably never get it right, but the map may be something we can leverage to get some policy that'll help.
And Julian, I thought your comments were wonderful, and your questions too, Cynthia. My one comment on your comment on if pedestrian infrastructure is everywhere, then it's nowhere. My understanding, which could be wrong, is that we're talking about developing transportation corridors. And when the county starts planning a specific corridor, they will look at the pedestrian infrastructure first and make sure that has space. It's not talking about everywhere, every little street, we're going to do sidewalks and things.
Yeah.
Or not right away.
Appreciate that, but that means there are going to be schools with no sidewalks because because we're never going to do a corridor on North Taylor Street, this tiny little street that goes to Taylor Elementary. It's never going to get a corridor study. And so we're not going to build sidewalks to the elementary school or otherwise make improvements to the streets to make it safer for kids to walk to the school. Like
I think
you're just missing something and not.
Yeah, I agree with what you've been saying. I think one of the responses of the BAC and the PAC is to look really carefully, and when we have concerns about accessing specific places by whatever mode, we need to say that. And that they need to address that. They just can't be these, north-south. And one of the things that concerned me about the way they described the bike priorities, it said north-south and east-west connections, and it's more than that. It has to be more than that, as you said, for schools. And you need to point those things out in your response.
Yeah.
And in case everyone doesn't realize that transit connectivity of all the schools is super important. Obviously middle school and high school students are old enough to be taking transit to school, but there are a lot of kids who miss school because their parents don't have cars and they can't get to the school except on a school bus, which obviously is just in the morning and in the afternoon. So you have a doctor's appointment, you wake up late, all these things lead to kids missing school. And it is a significant problem, and it's either it's a significant problem for the kids or it's a significant problem for Arlington's budget, which is what's happening now, where they won't assign kids from places without cars basically to schools that you have to have a car to get to. But that means that we have some like really overcrowded schools and some really undercrowded. Anyway, we need transit access to every single school.
Among many other places, yes. It's not just school, but yeah, those are really good points. Is Chris Slatt, are you still on? He may have dropped off.
Don't see.
He may have dropped.
I don't see him on the list. Yeah.
He was afraid we were going to call on him.
Yeah.
His head may have exploded when Way was like, just advocate with the state.
Oh my gosh.
No, we all know that. Jillian.
Well, I guess I guess she doesn't understand we could do it only as individuals, and we can't say, well, we're a member of this committee because that we would get ourselves in trouble with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, it just goes right to the county manager, whatever it is. I mean, we can do the legislative letter. That's about it. As a committee.
Because we're going
county manager.
Well, we're going through the county infrastructure by doing it that way. That's the.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Are we about done?
I think so. The recording's still going.
Okay.
So
okay.
be careful.
Before I go to bed, I am going to send another message to the PAC, and I will copy Cynthia and Mike, saying what I think our homework assignments are and what I've done so far, and what Amber and Eric have done so far. And people will need to give me responses by Friday, 5 p.m. so I can compile it this weekend and get it out. And I think the map work is just super important. I'm not sure the goal part is as important, but both are comments on both are really valued. Please think about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, any final comments?
No, other than Amber, I just got your email, and Lord have mercy. That's quite the list. Thank you.
Oh.
Sent me a list of all the gaps she saw, so that's great.
Well, it's
yeah, I'll have to get
interesting,
all
you know, Amber and I both had 28th Street South on our lists. Yeah, that really annoyed me.
Oh yeah, we've drawn that one in, plus that little path that I didn't know about that Jillian told me that connects you all the way over into your neighborhood. So, yeah, no, that's important, mostly because Gunston is could be a great school to bike to. And there are some ways to get there, but a few more connections would be really good. Yeah.
And 28th Street is level. It's got curves, but it's level. It's beautiful. There's no reason why we can't figure out how to do bikes on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm good. And
okay,
like I said, I'll try. Yeah. I'll
Thank
hopefully
you.
get stuff done.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone who came and participated. We really appreciate it.
Oof.
Yeah.
And David, you're still on, I guess, and you will capture the chat and the attendees and probably Elwin will give me the link to the recording as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
David. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Eric. Thank you,
Everybody.
Jillian. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everybody's on.
Bye-bye.
Aaron, you didn't chime in.
Yeah, I got other stuff I'm doing. I'm working from the NCSC side of things, so
okay.
I'll share later.
We